already started. Calling to order, it is 7:02 p.m. We'll start out with approving the minutes of the last meeting.
Or agenda.
Agenda first, yeah, I knew that. So first, we're going to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So I'm going to take the ability to make motions now.
Can I get a second?
Happy to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. A brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and council liaisons.
Staff has no, no.
Gloria? And I just want to take this moment to say that this is an opportunity where all of you can bring things from your work or from the community, like updates or news that you have. I will make a little announcement that YOLO Works is having a job fair in West Sacramento that is for all YOLO County residents this Thursday on the 23rd at the Civic Center Galleria in West Sacramento. So, there's that.
Madam
Next.
Chair,
Hmm?
I had a question for Director Bailey and then an announcement myself.
Okay.
Can you give us an update on just the status of the respite center?
I plan to do that.
Okay.
in a minute.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, so for me, I just, I'm a person who, like, one of the first things I do when I get up, I'm a freak. I look at my Facebook memories to kind of see what the last couple of things, that have happened over the years. And just yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of the creation of the Department of Social Services and Housing. And so I was looking at some of the social media statements from that time, and I'm not gonna, some of the activist ones are like 17 paragraphs long, so I'm not gonna, but I just wanted to read just from one or two sentences of a couple of them, and then there's also one from Councilmember Partita. But YOLO People Power was one of the groups that sort of helped lead the charge for that. And Julia Shaw, who was one of the leaders there, who did a lot of the research, said last night, after nearly 2 years of engagement from the community, Davis City Council unanimously voted to create an independent Department of Social Services and Housing. This monumental step in creating a more just, proactive, and evidence-based public safety system and it never would have happened without the community rallying behind a call to reimagine public safety. And then Acacia Hart, who was one of the co-chairs for YOLO DSA, said, you can tell this is written by a lefty organization, but I am shocked and thrilled to announce that the Davis City Council, after immense community pressure, has proposed and adopted a new Department of Social Services and Housing. This represents the first stepping stone in disempowering police and providing real public safety to the denizens of Davis, and will hopefully be used as a model for other cities in the future. And then Councilmember Partita, who seems like she was up very late that evening, said, how do you celebrate a win of a lifetime in trying to make things right? You sit on your porch and share chips with your dog and listen to the rain. Thank you to city staff, the community, and especially my council colleagues for being who you are. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting sort of time capsule into where we were 4 years ago in a department that didn't even exist a little while ago. Anyway, just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Now we will take public comment.
Good evening, my name is Ari Helberstadt. My comments are about energy systems. Energy is not always thought of as part of the social services, yet the cost and burden of energy disproportionately affect lower-income households and communities. Many struggle with the high cost of electricity, which may cause people to forgo cooling during extreme heat events. They may be shut out from participating in the clean energy transition due to upfront costs and property ownership status. They may not be able to access clean, reliable, and lower-cost electric transportation, increasing costs and time for transportation. When there is a power outage, they may lose basic services like refrigeration, cooling, communications, and transportation, and be forced to evacuate to shelters. Local energy systems, especially at the community level, could help to address these concerns. More affordable electricity could reduce overall housing and transportation burdens. Savings over the life of a mortgage could amount to several years of mortgage payments, while electricity for transportation could be just 40% of the cost of alternatives. Such a system could also speed housing projects by addressing utility interconnection delays. It could be integrated alongside transportation electrification, with the addition of optional microgrid capabilities, it could ensure continuous power supply during utility grid outages. The village farms and low growth housing projects could receive their electricity from a new greenfield municipal utility, providing residents with clean, affordable, and resilient energy. The city is currently negotiating the development agreements for these projects. To ensure that the residents can benefit from a local community energy system, the city should include language in the development agreements to ensure that the projects receive their electricity from a municipal utility and allow for additional on-site solar and storage beyond required minimums should the city create such a municipal utility. The city should also undertake a detailed feasibility study of the greenfield municipal utility to ensure all aspects have been considered. I would be happy to provide additional details to the commission. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment today? Okay then. Moving on. Consent calendar. Now we're going to approve the minutes.
I would move to approve the September minutes.
Can I have a second?
I can second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved minutes. Item 6A, public hearing. This is an amendment to 500G, the Lumberyard Affordable Housing Plan. Dana?
Thank you for gaveling us in for our public hearing. We'll be hearing from Iris Grace, our affordable housing manager. We'll be reviewing affordable housing plan number 4-25.
Good evening. So, we are bringing to you just an amendment to the original affordable housing plan with the young lumberyards. And I want to point out, I think we indicated it was 12, but after negotiating in the original round, it dropped down to 11. So that 12 is not accurate. It should have been 11. But the project has changed their scope a bit. So they've changed the scope to being able to serve student populations. And on its face, they are, I'm only going to speak about the affordable units. I'm not going to talk about the totality of the whole project. On its face, they're dropping the makeup to be more student focused, so there won't be singular units. But the way we looked at it when we looked at this project and the amendments they're requesting, is we looked at it about from a point of view of how many people are we servicing. So in the previous iteration, we were going to be able to service, I believe it was 22 individuals, whereas now we'll be able to service 28 individuals. We're also taking a deeper dive into the affordability. So with that in mind, we think that this was a benefit, a net benefit to how we're housing and the way we look at housing in the city of Davis. Typically right now, the way we look at affordability is anywhere from 60 to 80% AMIs. But if you look at the chart, we're going to be able to go down to the very low income levels. So that is why we felt like this would be a good change to the way we're looking at this project. And we're recommending that we go ahead and approve the change in the makeup of the units.
And the low-income chart that you referred to is actually in the staff report.
What did you say about the 11 versus 12?
So in the original round, I think it was in 2023, they initially submitted for 12 units. We then looked at the plan and we thought, well, I think they wanted to give us more 1-bedrooms and we wanted some 3-bedrooms. So we went back and renegotiated with them and we settled on 11 units in exchange for getting couple of the larger units.
So I got a little bit, as I was reading the different documents and stuff like that, I got a little bit lost in how the change is, I think in one place in the documents, it's like we're doing this to be more available to students, right? But not designate them, yeah, as has been in some, previous projects, not designate the unit specifically for students. Can you explain a little bit how the change in the project made it better for students?
So the
Makes sense.
project initially was not student-focused. So when you go to buy the bed makeup, that's more geared towards student populations. But from an affordable perspective, we were not necessarily looking at student populations from the affordability perspective. We're hoping that the units will be available to anyone. So when the Affordable Housing Department, when we looked at it from a lens, we didn't really look at it from the total project perspective, market rate versus student. We just looked at it from a perspective of how deep can we go into the affordability of the units and be able to service a population of people that generally are not getting served.
And so the net result is that we just have, more units available sort of that are in that category that we're looking to.
So now it's gonna be by the bed, so those individual units will be by the bed, but so if I can, let's just say you have a 3-bedroom, right? So in a 3-bedroom, it would be, if we did it the way it was initially set up, in a 3-bedroom, you would find a family that qualifies within that income criteria. This way, you can find an individual who would qualify for the bed based on a lower income criteria.
Right. So we're able to say at the end that we're serving a larger population of people,
Correct.
right? Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Looking at the chart here, it says the little asterisk by the bed, only the 4-bedroom is by the bed and the rest are by unit, but also I'm assuming none of these are deed restricted regardless. If 10 years from now, whoever's managing the project says the by the bed model isn't working or it's working really well, there's nothing that restricts the manager from switching between the two, right?
No, so the 4-bedrooms are new. So in the original iteration, there were no 4-bedrooms, so that's why the asterisk is there, just to clarify that. Then, as far as the deed restrictions, they will be deed restricted. So they couldn't come back at a later point and say, oh, we're gonna change what we're doing. They're deed restricted.
The affordable part definitely is deed
Correct.
restricted, but the other, whether a market rate unit is by the bed or by the unit, that's not deed,
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
Good, just clarification.
I had a question on the initial proposal, and I think it's clear on the current one, but it's not clearly stated. Was the initial proposal for this to be rental units managed by a company renting these out, or were they for sale units?
The initial was always rental units,
Always.
multifamily housing, yes, yes.
Okay.
Are there any other slides on this item? I do have another question or two, but I just want to see if there's anything. Okay. One thing I did have a question on was the people served, new versus old. I saw 28 people served with this new proposal, 22 versus old. I was trying to do some guess and check math from 7th grade algebra, and I couldn't figure it out. So how did we come up with those numbers?
So technically speaking, when you look at by the bed, so if I'm looking at an affordable, just a unit, it's generally gonna be looked at as one person per bedroom. When you do it by the bed, you can get more people into a bedroom. So let's say you have a 2-person household. They can actually go into a 1-bedroom within that structure of the unit, so you can get more people served.
Great, makes sense.
Yeah, I have a couple learning questions, I guess, for myself and for my fellow commissioners. I asked about the rental units because I'm, looking at our code now. Obviously, our inclusionary zoning states that rental units need to have 15% of housing designated toward affordable. It seems like when this initial application was submit that we had a lower rate. Is that correct? Did we have a lower rate of affordable makeup when this was passed, or was it also 15% at that
No,
time?
I think at the time, so actually, I think our code has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I do believe at the time, the proposal only required, I think it was like 11.25, whereas they rounded up. So they were giving us 12. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, it seemed like 5% was the requirement in terms of total, 5% of the total units need to be affordable.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're asking about the total affordable.
I'm asking about the percentage. I'll focus on the percentage rather than the number of units. It seemed like the application then, and obviously now, it's about 5% of the total units.
From my understanding, because this was a mixed-use project, and is this still a mixed-use project? At that time, the city code, from my understanding, was if mixed-use projects downtown required 5%, and that's when this project was submitted, so it only required 5%. And that has since been updated for other downtown projects, I believe, but at that time, it was 5% submittal for mixed-use multifamily.
Hi, I'm Eric Lee, I'm senior planner here at the city, so I worked on the project at the time with the applicant. And so for this project, they fell under SB 330, which was a vesting by the state basically that kind of allowed projects to submit an application, and it locks in place the requirements in place at the time when they submit. So this is still under that. And at that time, yes, it was a 5% requirement for a mixed-use project. And so that's why it's 11.
Great. Can I ask a follow-up question? This is just for edification mostly. So I was looking at SB 330, and it seems like, yeah, it locks in. Obviously, we don't want developers to have to change on every, whim and every vote and update to the code. But it did seem like if there are, I think the phrase was, let me go back at my notes here. Substantially revised. If the project is withdrawn, expired, or substantially revised, then potentially, there needs to be a new application. And I don't think, based on my understanding of the situation, I don't think this exists, but I think it's good for us to be aware of this. And so do you have any, can you explain, is this true, one, and then what's your understanding of substantially revised?
Yeah, and I don't want to be too the substantially revised, because that kind of language can be a little subjective, but certainly there is a criteria of just actual percentage and kind of applying to the number of units. So when they apply, they submit an application and stuff that shows the general square footage and the number of units. And so within that they're allowed, I think maybe it's a 20% adjustment, and it would still apply. If they go beyond a certain amount like that, then it would be a new application required. But they're still within that allowable range currently.
Yeah, some of the other, and again, I think it seems like this, qualifies and doesn't warrant a change in the percent, but this 20% number came up, so, and I think in this case, the change in units is about 10%. It seems like, I can't remember, I think it's about 10%. It's lower
It may
than,
be less than that, because actually the original application was slightly less, and so
Okay.
they bumped it up, by
okay, so
a
they went up
dozen
a bit,
units.
and then they went down.
And went down, so
Okay.
they're still within that.
But also, some other examples that I found of substantially revised include if there's a significant change to the affordability mix, if there's a change in building type, like a big change in the building type or configuration, which doesn't seem like there's, I don't know, I'm not I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge, but you're asking us to make a judgment on this, and so I just want us all to be aware of the information of SB 330 and of, that there are some gray areas I think we need to be aware of. And there was one in change in use mix as well, so that's why I asked about the rental units. And but it seemed like if there wasn't a change from initially being proposed as rental units, then there's not really an argument for it that it's substantially revised.
And in this case, this commission looks strictly at the affordability piece, and that would be a part of the overall project. So it's not something that would come back here.
Yeah. But I guess, I mean, the base percent under which we're judging the affordability, I guess, yeah. Is it not our purview to like talk about that or discuss whether or not, you know, I mean, yeah, I guess it's referring to the wider application, and so the fact, whether or not a wider, full application, you know, revision needs to happen is not our, not our domain, I suppose.
So I think if I can just say,
Please.
I think that when we're reviewing, that's one of the things we do take into consideration, is are they making substantial changes to the project? And in this one, the belief was they weren't making substantial changes. So if I could give an example, if they had gone from, let's say, unit base to for sale base, that is a substantial change that definitely should make us go back and look at the layers of affordability. In this one, they're decreasing some of the unit sizes, but giving larger unit sizes too. So they weren't really making a very substantial change to what they were offering in the marketplace. So that's the lens that we kind of look through. Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. It is a purview of this commission, I think, to make sure that we are adhering to to making sure that our projects are affordable according to what ordinances the city is putting out there. And I think that what you're thinking here is if there is a change, then they no longer are held to where they came in at as 5%. Now they might be subject to the higher percentage for mixed use. And so I appreciate you keeping our developers honest. But yes, you know, it is when you get into substantial, it's not a very, it's kind of a squishy. I think we talked about squishiness last time here. I don't remember if it was this commission, but yes, it is a sort of a squishy term, and so it's. But I just want you to know that I appreciate you bringing that up.
Sure, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, you know. Does it need to be updated? Do they need to follow 15% instead of 5? But, you know, seems like not. Okay, I think that's all for my comments.
Nobody else has any questions, I'll ask one more. The student focus really is just, at the end of the day, kind of a branding mechanism, for lack of a better word. Anyone can still rent any of these units or any of these beds. Like, there's very strict fair housing laws. Like, you can't say you have to be between 18 and 21 and enrolled in UC Davis to live here. Technically and legally, anyone can live here. They cannot discriminate for any person living in any of these units, right?
That is a correct statement.
Okay. Everything's luxury nowadays, so sometimes I've been in some of these luxury units and it's different definitions. So just making sure it's more of a branding phrase than a legal phrase.
That is correct.
So I think I heard you say that this option provides deeper affordability. Do you mean because there are more people that are served, or because they're offering a lower affordability option? Like,
It's a lower affordability option.
which
So
is,
it took a deeper dive into the AMI ranges.
okay.
So, and
Because I don't see that broken up. I guess I'm missing that.
so it's on page 2, and the very low income levels. We didn't include the other income levels in this chart. We just wanted you to see, like, for one individual, what very low income looks like is 44,100. For two people, 50,400, so on and so forth. And this is a area where you'll find that in most affordabilities, that population is not generally served. So that was one of the things we were looking at through the lens of, okay, this is a different kind of housing mix that might give us an opportunity to be able to serve that population.
So are all of the units for very low income, or are some of them for low?
So my guess is that we haven't gotten there yet, but my guess is there will be a mix between very low and low.
Okay. But you don't have that broken out yet?
We have not gotten that. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to that, maybe the applicant as well. But so actually what ended up getting approved by the planning commission after going through city social services before, with that, it would be 5% all at very low income. And these would still be that as well. And part of that is they did rely on that for the density bonus law to be able to take advantage of a waiver of concessions in terms of the project. And so, but these would be 5% all at very low.
So, forgive me for my ignorance, so, but is the city, is there gonna be an opinion prepared on whether or not this is a substantially different project? In the course of like reviewing this proposed change? Or, I understand that might not be for us to decide, but.
So, just to give you an idea, when you start talking about substantial changes, it's a very subjective term, right? And especially when you start talking about HCD and HUD, those are very subjective terms. And generally speaking, the way substantial changes are looked at, they are substantial, meaning are they offering a different product? Are they substantially changing what they were initially bringing to the marketplace? In this particular case, it was looked at as though it was not a substantial change to the product that was initially being offered.
Right. I guess I see it slightly differently perhaps. I mean, looking at the change, they completely eliminated an entire type of housing. One bedroom is completely gone. There aren't that many, the average family size in Davis is pretty small. Like I think the non-student demand for a 4-bedroom, in my experience, is going to be a lot lower. And we think about sort of the trickle-down effects on affordability. In my mind, a larger supply of 1-bedrooms allows us more, kind of expands the options for a lot of people and could alleviate some price increases at that 1-bedroom size. So I'm just wondering, again, I understand it's a subjective term, and I understand it might not be our responsibility to determine, but my question is the city formulating an official opinion on that as part of this review?
So to answer the question, the opinion that's given here was taken into consideration. It was looked at as though it was not. That's one of the duties I did, is it was looked at as though it wasn't. I hear your concern though, and I think that that's a conversation for the dais. The way I look at, or the way I'm charged with looking at affordability is just the affordability component. I'm not looking at the totality of the full project, I'm just looking at the totality of the affordability. And in this particular situation, the way that was looked at is that, okay, what are the trade-offs, right? And so one of the trade-offs were we can service more people at lower income levels. That's a big that's a huge trade-off when you start talking about affordability. Because when you go out and you start looking at affordability, you'll see that generally speaking, in more affordability developments, it's generally 80 to 120. So when you start saying 40 and 50% AMI levels, that's a big thing. It's a really, really big thing to be able to service that population, because there are not many projects that, and I'm sorry, I want to reverse from saying projects. There are not many housing units that service those populations. So again, when looking at it from those lenses, it was believed that this is not a substantial change to what's being offered in the marketplace. And that's, to give you some idea, that's the lens that was looked at, is the trade-offs were looked at as well too.
Okay. Just one more follow-up, if that's okay. And I apologize if I'm talking past you, but so if I'm understanding what you're saying, when you're talking about substantially different, you're talking about this sort of affordable column, that sort of that piece of the project. I think I'm more curious in whether or not the city's formulating an opinion on whether the project in general is going to be substantially different, and whether that would trigger a new level of requirement for the number of affordable units.
So I think that part of the program that this is running through, what is it, the SB 330, allows it to all be done sort of at the staff level. I mean, part of the streamlining is that it doesn't have to go before council. Is that? Is that?
That is
so-
correct.
And if I understand your question, you're asking, is this gonna go to council to decide if there have been substantial changes, right?
I think a follow-up similar question, and I just also want to say, Iris, it's great to have you back. It's great to have you here. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
wealth of knowledge. Yeah, I think I'm on a similar train of thought as you a little bit. It's like, whose responsibility, where does the role or responsibility lie for this first bigger question of, and maybe that was a question, planning question, like, does that sit with you, Iris? Does it sit with someone else? Is it happening? Like, is someone sitting down
I
and
think
looking?
that's a very layered question, again.
Okay.
I think from the general scope of what's being discussed right now, I think that would be a planning question because that's a project totality question. But generally speaking, if there are, from the lens I look at, if there are guidelines that say substantial, they'll usually spell it out under the federal and state guidelines on what substantiability looks like. And generally speaking, when it's not, then you have to go from the scope of, okay, is this major? Because when they say substantial, that's the underlying factor. Is it major?
I guess, yeah, my question is still, whose job is it to decide, to ask that question, is this major?
So I
Just
think that
yours?
for this project, it would be, it would be Eric on
Eric,
this
okay,
one.
okay, just, yeah, trying to understand.
Yeah, absolutely, no, thank you. It's a good question. And then honestly, probably the first question that we asked when we were talking with the applicant about it when they approached us, because for planning, anytime there's a change or potential change, we want to know, what is the change? How much of a change is it? Does it trigger additional review? Do you need additional approvals? And so we kind of went through several meetings with them on that to understand it. So the answer is, we looked at it, we determined it's not a substantial change. And so that is the job of the city to do that first, and so that's why we're coming to you for this, but we're not, say, going to the planning commission to reapprove the project, because it's not a new project. It's all pretty much interior changes, still the mixed use uses, they're just the adjustments to the number of bedrooms and the types of, or the number of units, the types of units, this mix, which is affecting the affordable housing plan. But for example, it doesn't affect the design of the building other than there are more windows, right, there are more bedrooms. But essentially, it's the same square footage, same height, same footprint, same improvements, same exterior, all of that for when we look at the design. But the interior, is being adjusted. And even for planning, typically, if they're making changes in the interior, not that we don't review it, but that's not primarily what, say, planning looks at. It's a building issue, mechanical changes or changes to utility, things like that. The trash room. This is a little bit more because it is slightly, different unit types and sizes, but combining bedrooms or sometimes added bedrooms wouldn't be something that would trigger a planning change. Obviously, this is a little more than just 2 or 3 units, but it's not a substantial change for the purpose of like the planning application or the approval, because it still is consistent with the approvals that it had before, which were even for 11 units. In this case, we're getting a slightly better mix because even though they're reducing the number of units, we're getting additional 3-bedroom units, so we are able to serve more people, as Iris was mentioning.
Madam Chair. So I appreciate y'all helping us understand this a little bit better. And I think you were just getting into this a second ago, and I just want to maybe confirm, because this might help us understand this better the next time. Is there like a specific, I know you said it's like subjective and like sort of a case-by-case thing, right? Is there like a specific list of criterion that you're supposed to kind of take a look at to see if it's a substantial change? And if that exists, can that maybe be shared with the commission so we can understand it a little bit better?
So in general speaking, there is not a list. It just varies from program to program, regulation to regulation. So generally speaking, if they want to define what substantial is or substantiability is, it'll be defined in the regulation. For our edifice in the city, we don't really have that in our regulations, but if they're, for example, this came under 330, if they wanted to deem it a different kind of requirement, they would have spelled it out in the regulations. But generally speaking, if it's in the regulations and it's not spelled out, it's very subjective.
So to just make a very clarifying question, I guess. It is not the purview or the request of staff for us to say, are there substantial changes? The question is the affordable housing program functionally equivalent to what it was in the initial proposal, which is almost kind of reminiscent of the Village Farms one, however, 2 months ago or whatnot, where, just to really narrow the scope of what we are or aren't supposed to do tonight. Is that more or less kind of on the right direction?
That's the correct statement, because generally speaking, what staff will do is kind of review it in the purview of, okay, are they taking away from the affordability? Are they adding to the affordability? Are they leaving the affordability the same way? And then again, for this particular project, there was no major changes. Actually, they've added a few things, so there were no major changes. That came out, so that's correct. Yeah.
So I think that I would add that when you're looking at the projects for affordability, if you are going in the other direction, if you're losing affordability, I think that even a little bit of loss to affordability, in my mind, would be substantial. But since this is not a huge difference and you're actually gaining some of the affordability that is hard to grab, then that's sort of substantial in the right direction, if that makes any sense. And so it's not as concerning as, say, losing affordable options for folks. And I don't think that there is when you look at the number of people as well, it's not a huge difference in that number either, in either direction.
Just quickly, I just want to, while we're still on this topic and while we're sort of considering thinking about future projects, I want to boost what Commissioner Franco said in terms as a one-bedroom liver right now, that availability does sort of help us, post UC Davis students, people who don't have, kids or, a whole bunch of people that have other bedrooms, slated for. That availability is, I think, important. And so as we're, if we did see sort of availability of those in future projects that were affordable in particular, but just, market rate affordable, I think is also helpful. I think that's a thing that we should, praise or highlight or, be a thing that we look for in future projects.
I just think that that's the trade-off, because it's hard to, even though our role is to talk about the affordability, and clearly this is an improvement, it's hard to pull that out from the broader picture, which is that this is now student-focused. That is not really what we, that doesn't align with city goals and really should be UC Davis's goals. And those middle income, professionals and families and moderate income, low income, this is meeting that very low income, but extremely low income, right? Are that's what we're thinking about at the same time.
While I do think it is important that we have that availability of the one bedrooms that I was just advocating for a second ago, along the lines of a point that Commissioner Curzon made earlier, this is not something that says you have to be a student to be in this apartment. And so, and also, there's been some critique of this by the bed sort of model at different, in the recent years in this community. And so, there might be, I think as you outlined, there might be a time in the future where they say, hey, girl, I don't know if this, by the bed thing, yes, a direct quote, I don't know if this by the bed thing is going to work necessarily as a going forward. And so that might sort of change. I think if it was any more sort of built into the system where it was, without breaking the law, as you were sort of outlining earlier, if it was more geared toward students and sort of less toward other sort of middle and lower income people, I would be a little bit more concerned. But I think sort of a trade-off of a few more units or a few more beds of a different type, you know, and the loss of a couple, you know, one-bedroom units. I think it's, you know, fair as long as we're going to pursue getting those one-bedroom units in a different project in the future.
Can I ask, and this is a learning on my part question here, how did we get to this revision? Like, what brought this about from the original proposal? And then how do we get to these new affordable numbers?
So I'm gonna bring Eric back.
Yeah, and I'd actually ask, because the applicant is here, representative from the applicant is here, so he can speak to that. But, so I think it's probably better if he speaks to it than I do, if you're okay with that.
Recognizing. What is your?
My name is Doug Busby. I'm with the developer group. Thank you for listening and having this very thorough discussion. As I said, so we started this project about 4 years ago, and we designed the project originally not to be strictly student focused, and we've been on a journey trying to raise capital to actually construct the project. And the market has gotten a lot softer in town, vacancy is up, rent growth is down, and just generally speaking, the capital markets are for multifamily development capital is incredibly challenged. So anyway, we have recently partnered with a group called Greystar, which is a very large multifamily developer, and they came in and it was their original idea to let's reorient this more towards the student market. And we've basically gone that direction because we think it'll make the project more financially viable. We've got greater hopes that the project will actually now come out of the ground in the near future. So that's the reason we went from the original unit mix, which had some 3 bedrooms, but a lot of studios and 1 bedrooms. Now we're really shifted more towards the student focus, the 4 bedrooms, and fewer of the smaller studios and 1 bedrooms.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Of course.
So maybe that's my dissonance in this. So the idea, obviously, this is the entrance of the 4 bedrooms here into this plan here. So is the thinking here that many college or students are going to sort of bunk up together in these bigger units here to it, or
typically the larger units are rented on by the bedroom basis. So instead of renting a 4-bedroom unit to a family of 4 or 5 people, or a bunch of roommates that share the rent, you rent each bedroom individually. It's called an individual lease, and so it accommodates more people, and it just like Commissioner Curzon said, it happens to be, it has market viability with the student population. So that's why that works.
And then can you say a little bit about how we got to these affordability numbers in this revision?
Sure. So back in 2022, I believe it was, when we originally brought the project forward under the SB 330 application, the inclusionary housing ordinance had a provision that for downtown projects with a mixed-use component, the requirement was 5% low income. And so we proposed originally a project with 5% low income, and that was originally 12 units. And then we got further on into the project and realized we needed to make use of a density bonus law concession. And in order to achieve a density bonus under state law, you have to provide 5% at very low. So we said, look, we'll go very low. Of course, it benefits the city. City gets deeper affordability, and then we can use the density bonus. It's not actually a density bonus in terms of additional floors, height, or additional units. It's just, it was a zoning standard that we didn't meet. It was, it's like one of the dimensions of the building was longer than the code allowed, or something to that effect. Good.
Yeah,
Thank you all again. Thank you to staff as well.
Any further questions or comments? Public comment.
All right, I'm Jeffrey Stallnick. I'm the Vice Chair of the Davis Senior Citizens Commission. I'm a Commissioner on the Yolo County Commission for Aging and Adult Services. One of the handouts I gave was that Section 8 vouchers are going to be really hit hard. So a lot of the people living in these complexes that depend on Section 8 are probably going to lose their housing. So that's going to increase our unhoused population quite a bit. And I also had a question on when you say very low income housing, what would a studio cost? Don't know. Do any of these require housing vouchers?
So it's really premature to say. The city would not be the ones that indicate whether or not they require housing vouchers. The question would be, will they accept housing vouchers? And technically, you have to accept housing vouchers. So if someone's approaching the property with a housing voucher, then that's something that would be considered, but we don't assign the housing vouchers.
Yeah, but we're going to lose. We're going to lose our housing vouchers. It's the administration. That's one of the handouts I gave. The Cal Matters.
But that's the purview of the housing authority, not the city.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to see a lot more homeless.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any other public comment? Do we have to approve this? Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the housing plan number 4.25?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up, discussion, Social Services Commission Work Plan Review and Update.
So, I'm bringing this to you, but our folks that worked on the work plan last time are pretty much gone.
I worked on it, I think.
Judy is the one that she's probably got a wealth of knowledge about how you got there, but I figured that I would tee it up for you anyway. And I thought we'd start by just talking about what the commission is charged with and how it kind of ties into council, and how you could go about developing a work plan. So, as you know, council has its goals and priorities that it sets on an annual basis. Right now, two of the objectives that apply directly to this commission are here. It's shoring up the housing continuum and improving social services for vulnerable populations. And you can also see, here are the things that by council resolution, they determine are the responsibilities of the commission. It's to review and make recommendations related to social services, make recommendations based on policies and procedures and standards around housing affordability, and making decisions about our entitlement through HUD, through the Community Development Block Grant and Home Program. So back in 2023, when that commission was underway, one of the things they looked at was, okay, well, what does council want us to do, and what are our responsibilities in our resos? And these are some of the things that they thought were, your primary responsibilities. And based on these things, They thought every year we should come up with some kind of an idea, some kind of a work plan for things that we would like to tackle. In 2023, these were the work plan objectives, some of the things that that particular commission wanted to be able to bring forward. How do we aid council with and social services providers to meet the needs of the in-house? How do we positively influence the expansion and preservation of affordable housing? And then how do we raise awareness about what we're doing through social services? These were some of the activities that they proposed in 2023, and it really kind of stuck to what your primary focus is, and that is the oversight for your federal funding and how that's distributed. They looked at best practices related to affordable housing, and at that time they also did a couple of feasibility studies. One of them was proposed to look at community navigators, which you've already done. And then they thought about hosting educational forums. How can we explain to the public what it is that we're doing? We also, again, wanted to raise more awareness about what was happening related to social services. These were some of the educational proposals that they thought about making. And then they really wanted to collaborate with other commissions, try to figure out how they could do that. In 2024, they proposed a few new activities. Again, some of them was based on what they were thinking about collaborating with other commissions. They wanted to get more clarity on how they could be more effective without coming about with the Brown Act. And then they thought about new subcommittees to look more into CDBG and other sources of grants, and pursue other kinds of critical needs. What are the critical needs in the community, and should we be looking at those? And they really wanted a better understanding of city and county funding. How does that work? So with that in mind, let me do this. This commission can determine if they would like to create a work plan. They can develop a subcommittee that can look into it, look into some of the history of what was done, look into some of the changes that have been made since then, some of the atmosphere and the things that we're dealing with are very different right now. So it would give a subcommittee a chance to kind of look into those things. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that if the commission determines that it wants to create a work plan and you come up with something, it is something that has to be reviewed and approved by council. So if you want to take some time to develop a work plan, we put it into place. We tried, the last commissions did them on a calendar year. So you could propose one for calendar year 2026. Or you can even consider doing them along the lines of our federal funding and doing it on a fiscal year. And our fiscal year is July 1 through June 30. That's our proposal. It is a recommendation that if the commission is interested in developing a work plan, assigning a subcommittee to look into that possibility.
Just a clarifying question at first. My mind went to the council approving our work plan. Is that a thing that's always been a part of work plans, or is that a thing that happened in June at the same time that our agenda? Oh, I see different head nod indications from Councilmember Martin and Director Bailey, so whoever wants to address that.
I think the work plan has always needed to go for approval. I think it's always been like on consent, so it's not really like it's not been a big deal. Unless you're proposing something outrageous.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right? Yeah, I guess another clarifying question, would this be for, you mentioned sort of the time periods that different commission work plans can cover. Would this be, just given how late we are, would this be a 2026 work plan, I guess, given just where we are?
That's what we would be looking at, either for calendar year 2026.
Yes.
Or if you wanted more time, you can do it for the fiscal year starting July 1, 2026.
Unless I hope that we can develop a work plan before January.
Yeah, so the idea is we would present a work plan to council, and then council would say yes in January, and then you would plan to work, I guess, on the work plan.
Yes. And so you bring it forward, you guys would agree on it, I would need approval That we bring it to council, and then council would consider it on consent.
And we would need to develop work group.
A subcommittee to work on it. And subcommittees have been, well, it's completely up to you. It's been as few as 2 people, and as long as we're not in violation of the Brown Act, it's usually got people work on it.
But it could be up to 3? If we're a 7-person body, right, it's still below quorum?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in favor of
Yep.
developing a work plan, and that is not I'm not volunteering necessarily.
So
Yeah.
first, let's make a motion to create a subcommittee to develop a work plan.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now who would like to participate in said work group?
I volunteer Commissioner
Seven.
Ennis.
I have done it a number of times in my past commission, so I'm willing to do it here.
Great.
So we'll surprise Judy when she comes back.
I have a couple other comments. I'm not volunteering yet either, but I have some other comments or questions, for fellow commissioners about it. I'm also in favor, Sarah, of a work plan. I think it's great to be able to set out, goals. I'm very aware, I've only been on the commission for 1 year, but I'm very aware we obviously have limited time and resources. Like, the time up here in these meetings, we have a lot come to us. We have a lot on our plate that we're responsible to do already. I feel that we do have the ability to create more initiative in setting our own agenda points that would contribute to discussions that could move the work plan forward. I also would see that if we have a work plan, I'm mostly saying this because if we do have a work plan, I want to make sure that we're actually going to be able to and have the resources and time to work towards it. So I just wanted to say as well that I imagine if we create a work plan, I would be in favor of, as part of getting that work plan done, having a couple different subcommittees throughout the year to actually be putting in time outside of this. Is that a general understanding of others?
I was on the 2024 work plan subcommittee, and I think Judy Wong Chen was as well. And we developed it, and then we proposed that it would be reviewed every quarter. I don't think we did that. It's hard to get the momentum going, so I think I would just kind of advise that the work group, come up with really tangible tactics and be ambitious yet conservative in what we aim to achieve, because I think a lot of the meat of what we as a commission can get done really is away from, this meeting. So it's just a matter of how much time folks have to dedicate to it offline.
I know I've got my thumb on the button. I hugely in support of accountability. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we can think about how to build that in. I think that could be a part of it, and we can all participate in that discussion. How can we, because when I participated in making that last one, I really wanted to move it forward and do the things, and we wrote it out and we presented it, and then that's kind of where it got. And we did a lot of the things actually on there, but I would say we did them not necessarily because of the work plan, because that was already the work that this commission was set out to do.
Maybe we could, at our next meeting, I was going to say the meeting after that, but I doubt we're meeting the third Monday in December. That could be a little holiday soon. But just set a pseudo agenda for the work plan where all commissioners can say, here's the tier 1 goals, and there's 1 through 3, and here's the tier 2 goals, and tier 3. We don't need to have an objective ranking, but we could probably come up with, these are the 3 most important, and then depending on time and energy and all the other resources, here are the next tier, and we're volunteers. Tier 3 might be tough to get to, but I think tier 1 and tier 2 are kind of reasonable precedent for all of us to have input on, so the people who are on that subcommittee can then go forth and prosper, and maybe we do have check-ins. I think that would not be a terrible idea to...
Calendar.
Yeah, that could be, I think quarterly makes a lot of sense for that.
And I think, Dana, if you could send out the previous work plan to the commission. however many.
I totally agree. I was thinking the same thing as you, Patrick, with having at least one agenda that's on a Monday, and we're all here. That's part of the brainstorming, I guess, around that, and then the subcommittee kind of takes and does, whatever it thinks it's best with that to come up with a work plan. I am, again, I've only been on a year, but I also have this feeling of it takes time to get these things done. I'm wondering if we have a little bit of a brainstorm. I feel like if we assign a subcommittee now and don't have any brainstorming around it, will the subcommittee be able to do anything between now and our next meeting? Maybe not. Maybe the subcommittee could come up with the first brainstorming, I guess. Come up with a little bit of a brainstorming on their own, and then we discuss in November. I just don't want to start off after our meeting in November. How can we empower the subcommittee to start sooner, I guess?
I'd almost be open to having a subcommittee in November, or assign the subcommittee. That way, everyone can kind of independently brainstorm, and staff will obviously have its own opportunity to talk with council, talk with other folks. Councilmember Partida will have, the ability to kind of think on her own right about what the subcommittee should do, and that way, everyone's kind of coming in with a lot of ideas, and we'll see. I'm sure there's going to be a Venn diagram with a lot of overlap here, but I think that could be a little bit more interesting from my perspective than having, a 2 to 3 person subcommittee say, here's what we're going to do, and then all of a sudden people are like, wait, what about this, what about that, what about this? I'd rather see 7 people, almost word storm together and see what overlap there is and kind of work that way.
Well, you first. I've talked a lot.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, you're suggesting assigning the committee in November?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think that's I don't think the city's gonna descend into a lake of lava if that happens. I would just recommend to the point that Commissioner Ringer was making, just about the calendar's just gonna run away from us at a certain point with the holidays. I would recommend us impaneling the committee now, having them take a look at at least I think the 2 past work plans that Director Bailey sent to us, and then coming up with some suggestions so there's some meat on the bone. I just feel like, again, in my 6 years on PAC, those sort of we have had a couple of those, Councilmember Partida has participated in, where we have had those freewheeling, the whole commission is kind of participating in the work plan, and that's a very long discussion, and then I'm left at the end of it wondering, what did we do exactly? So I would recommend that we have some sort of idea from the subcommittee. I know that it might be limited, as you're saying. Present that to the full commission, and then the commission has something to kind of, I don't like that, I don't think that's important, to the tiered sort of comment that you're making. I feel like that's a nice to have, we should think about doing that maybe if we have time and resources, but maybe that shouldn't be the top priority. We can have that a little bit discussion if I think there's something from the subcommittee to present.
Well, why don't we receive the previous 2 work plans, or 1, whichever, whatever you have access to, why don't we receive that through email, then why don't we assign this subcommittee now, and then everyone email their top 2 priorities to the subcommittee, and then they will take that in.
I think just for Brown, we have to email them to
Email them to Dana.
Yes.
I think it's great. Email in between is a good way to.
Email your top, whatever, if you have 5 priorities, you have 1, or if you have none, doesn't matter, just email your input, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Any other initial direction we want to provide to the subcommittee before we?
Just to put a super.
Between now and November?
Yeah, put a super fine point on it. So between now and our November meeting, we would do some of this idea generation.
Just an input, I would say, yeah.
And then receive at the November, the previous work plans.
We would,
I'll send out the previous work plan as of tomorrow. So you'll have
and then I think that can help you formulate the ideas of the kinds of things that we might put on
I think they were in the packet for today.
Yeah,
One of them was, the last 2 were, but any that,
Yeah.
before that, if they're available.
Okay.
If there are some, I'll take those.
We didn't have one for 2025, so you were 2 most recent ones.
Oh, okay, never mind then. I didn't see that.
I would only add that I think this idea is good. I'm glad we're kind of talking through this, and especially since there are so many new commissioners on this, I think this is a chance to bring up to speed some of the people that are newer in this work, and as well as kind of democratize some of the historical knowledge across this commission.
So who else would like to be on the subcommittee?
Can I continue to add, I liked Chris's clarifying note. So yeah, November meeting, the subcommittee coming, having collected emails and whatever input, looking at the last ones, and then having like a long list of ideas for discussion, and then whittling down in that meeting, and then moving forward. Okay, cool.
So,
I just do have one more clarifying question. I think this might be for Councilmember Partita, but just taking us back to the council approval thing and just with our new policy about the agendas from last June. If we, develop a work plan for next year or next calendar year, we say these are the topics that we want to engage on and maybe, move some things forward on. We get that approved by council. We then have to come back and have those same topics approved for agendas, like for future commissions meetings. Like if they were like a non-routine, like non-statutory sort of thing that we would usually have to get council to.
I think that idea of having like a project approved by council is usually something that is outside of your work plan or outside, it's something that's gonna, that's like a bigger project or something that's going to like give some thought to policy, right? Because sometimes there are, some commissions have gone off and done a lot of work and then wanted to, council to weigh in on something. And council's either not interested or not ready, or just, there are a million other things that are happening. And so then you're not doing the work that the council is expecting the commissions to do. So sometimes it siphons off time and energy from work that the commission should be doing.
Right, yeah, so I'm just looking to confirm that like if it's approved in the work plan, it's sort of like a soft thumbs up to that being on a future agenda.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
thank you for that clarification.
Outside of Commissioner Orton, any volunteers for? I will tentatively, I am happy to join that and maybe add in maybe we'll get Commissioner Ennis's soft yes, but she will have the right to decline because she is not here. But I have a feeling she'd be happy to be the third member.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, I think we can let her opt in or out, but yeah, I think with Patrick and Dylan, we have two, and then maybe by the next, between now and then, if someone else wants to kind of chime in, I'm happy to give any advice based on my last year's or 2 years ago experience.
Yeah, no, I definitely look forward to having our more experienced commissioners submit their suggestions to what should be on the work plan. So
And I'm happy to be like the third silent partner or something, I can't do it during regular work hours.
Right, yeah, no, that makes sense. No, that's fine. Yeah, we look forward to taking everybody's expertise to the table here.
Great. Anything else on that? Any other? All right, we have the subcommittee.
Thank you both for volunteering.
Do we have any public comment? All right, subcommittee reports.
As of now, we don't have any subcommittee reports, so just something for you guys to be thinking about. This is really a busy season for many of our nonprofits anyway, so if you could be thinking about maybe for next year, making plans for next year.
I've had a hard time reaching the YOLO receipt. Do you have any advice? I've tried like email, general line, email a particular person. I've also tried phone.
Which agency?
Y3C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, they're in a bit of transition right now. They've got a new executive director. So I can reach out to them and let them know that you're looking to
Okay.
contact.
I think I was officially scheduled to do a report out in November. I don't think that's going to happen. So,
Yeah, I can put you in touch with them. All right. But that's what it is. They're they've got some transitioning that's happening at the organization. That's why
I figured, thank you.
Happy to just have that push everyone back a month accordingly.
That seems fair.
Any public comment on that? Seeing none?
This kind of dovetails into that, that's the liaison process, and it's pretty much the same thing. We'll look at that for 2026.
All right,
And then for that.
no public. Is there more opportunity for public comment on our lack of liaison report? Moving forward?
Can I just add, or are you able to send out the contact information to us for the various agencies that we?
Yes,
Okay.
I will do that. I'm sending you the contact information for each of you, and then I'll send you a list of contacts for the agencies you've been assigned to.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Ready? This is when it gets dangerous.
Long range calendar.
Yes. We are at the end of the year, folks. There are a lot of things that are coming up, but most of them have to do with some of the larger development projects that are happening. We've got a couple of dates. The Planning Commission is reviewing Village Farms. That's in progress. At this time of year, we would typically be working on our NOFA from HUD for CDBG and home. We have no new information from HUD this time, so not quite sure how that's going to play out. So we'll keep you posted when we have more information. But what we should be probably looking at, and we can probably do that as you develop the work plan, is revising all of this for 2026. So what we'll do is I attempted to send this to you all as a document, and it's in Excel, and it wouldn't play with me properly. It was trying to give me 5 or 6 pages to send you, but we'll clean this up. We will set in all the holidays for the year, all the planned recesses that you potentially may have, and then as a group, as you develop the work plan, you can decide where on the calendar you want to put things. It is a good time, though, to talk about December.
Could you make that a little bit bigger, please?
Let's see.
That would be the 15th?
Yes. That's what it is. So that's the third, that is the third Monday in December. So I think you should be, yeah, the holiday is the following week and starts on the 22nd. So we can still schedule a meeting for December. I just want to confirm that that's something that.
Good staff would heavily discourage
But we do have one scheduled for there. And then I think nothing else really changes. I'll update this and send this out with that when I send you the contacts and when I send you the work plan so you can take a look at it. And then we'll start fresh for 2026.
In terms of future, do we have a meeting in November?
Yes, you do. I'm sorry.
Is it on the 17th?
Yes, we have a meeting in November on the 17th. We do. And that's I thought about this other big meeting that's coming and didn't get that on this. I will.
For December, I might defer to staff. If there's a project that needs something, I would be a little more open to meeting in December, but if it's us I'd rather do this at, a different location if we all want to hang out. But if there's a project that needs something voted on, I'd be happy to meet in December, but if it's just kind of general updates and upkeep, then I would be open to having a December recess.
I don't think we have any development projects that are coming forward for December, so I don't have anything that needs to be an action item. So it'll be up to the commission.
It might be an important checkpoint for the work plan.
Why don't we wait until
See
next
how-
month?
Yeah.
See
See how it goes in November.
Because in the past, we've always had it, I think, right?
Yeah, we generally have a December meeting.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be here. Yeah.
Does it have to be here, you said?
It doesn't have to be here.
Where else is it?
At the senior center and everybody very popular. It's,
Oh, that would be fun.
I can work on location.
Yes, I love the potluck. While we're talking about schedules, can we put on the long range the time that
Oh,
this
yes.
meeting needs?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There was a question, I didn't realize that other commissions typically meet at about 6 or 6:30. This commission has met at 7 since I've been on board, but that's entirely up to you. So, to align with other commissions, we could.
I feel like that would be so much easier for staff, right?
Well,
I mean,
Probably.
yeah, and it just,
Yeah.
parents.
Well, I'm sure that that's what they kind of took into account when
Yeah.
they set that time, just to give people a chance to get home and get settled and then come out. But again, it's completely up to you all.
Right, I was gonna, do we have any, on my last commission assignment, I was driving from downtown Fairfield to make it to meetings. Is anyone working out of town? Oh,
I guess not on Mondays, but Tuesdays, Thursdays, I'm in Rancho Cordova. Yeah, I mean,
I'm like
40
slightly
minutes.
out of town.
but I can get here by 6.
Like what, 6:30, because 6:30 is the standard.
6:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
6:30 is 30 minutes earlier.
It seems like a nice
Yeah.
Yeah,
meeting point,
compromise.
compromise.
7 always throws me off, just I've been doing 6:30 for years.
So, I will, if,
We have the motion.
I don't know.
so, if 6:30 works for everyone, then effective in November, we will schedule for 6:30.
Great, thank you. I also have a question in terms of chair and vice chair, because is it for a year, right? So I'll be, just to start getting us thinking about that in terms of the long range.
Right. And that would be, you'd be looking at that probably sometime in May.
I believe I became chair in January
Did
1st.
you?
So not that I want to give up my gavel, but I will, and that would mean, I think Sarah, likely stepping
Or
to
anyone
chair,
else.
Or anyone else. An opportunity for someone else also to become vice chair. Finally got the hang of it. Still need to learn when to give public comment and check the minutes, but,
I can add that to the.
yeah, and it's not like on my behalf, it doesn't have to be like a strict end date, but just putting it on our radars.
I think it's also good just to like standardize it, if it's always in January, I feel like that just sort of helps, for PAC, it was always in January, we just sort of knew that that's when it was gonna happen. I feel like most commissions are either January or June. I did have, in terms of, long range and future items, I know we're at the end of the year, but this really just, an information request, that could be just an information item in a future agenda. But I know that at least one of the immigration enforcement, it's kind of hard, it almost seems like a weird euphemism, but one of the immigration enforcement activities that happened in Yolo County was at an affordable housing location, at least as far as I'm aware. And so I'm just wondering, I know, there's a federal government nexus here, so I'm just wondering what is available to us as a community to give in terms of informational resources to residents in the affordable housing units in Davis to be aware of what their rights are, I think obviously we'd have to be somewhat careful, but, I think it's important, given that that's already been a little bit of a history in the past couple of months here in Yolo County, that we make sure that our residents are empowered with all the informational resources to keep themselves and their families safe. So I'm just wondering, the request for information is, what can we do in that space? What can we provide to?
I think that there are a number of organizations that are working in that space. So I can reach out to those organizations that are directly working with immigrants, like maybe Northern Legal Services in Northern California and a couple of other organizations, and have them kind of advise. The one thing that we have to be cognizant of is we receive federal funding.
Right.
So, but and the city has an approach. There's information that we place out for the public, so that they know what their rights are and that information is readily available here at City Hall. But I can reach out to some organizations that specifically look at that and come back.
I can say that YOLO works. We have an agricultural labor coordinator that oversees exactly that, and we actually are canceling the resource fair because of the risk that that could pose, but we're going to be doing a virtual one, so I can give an update when that is coming up so that YOLO County residents can tune in. And I can send out information. I have a lot of that information, actually.
And I know a lot of this information is just out there, but I think, you know, in this kind of time, given what's going on, like sort of proactively making sure that we're putting that in people's pockets so that they can, you know, utilize it is kind of necessary just where we are.
If you Google YOLO Works Agricultural Labor Program, you can find something, but I can send something to Dana to share with the group.
Cool, thank you.
Any other comments on the long range? Otherwise, I will send that out to read. Back to the beginning. Don't look at the screen. Make your dessert. Okay. All right. So now, yes, there is. Thank you. Public comment?
Public comment? Seeing none? Moving forward to Commission staff communications, development project and affordable housing properties update.
Okay. Let me find my little cheat sheet. Here we go. I asked our with the resources person to come up with a list of our affordable homeownership projects that are properties in the city. So far, we have sold, we've got 7 properties total that were available for sale. 3 of those properties sold to people that were on our wait list. 4 of the properties were sold at the open market. And then we currently have on the market, we've got 5 projects that are currently coming to the market or on the market that are in the city's right of first refusal period. So that means that we are actively marketing those properties to the community so that they know that they're available. And we've updated our website. We did kind of a blast, marketing blast, so that people knew that we had these projects and encourage people to add their names to the wait list. So we've got quite a few people that have now been added to our wait list, which is good news. It was kind of dwindling. There's been the market has changed a bit, so there's been less folks that have been interested, but the marketing blitz gave us a few more people. And we've been actively encouraging people to go work with an organization called NeighborWorks. What they've been doing is doing first-time home buyer education classes. They have a number of seminars and they talk to people about what it takes to apply for housing, the things that they would need in order to be considered for purchase. So we've been trying to really expand people's knowledge about what it takes to buy in a market like this, what they have to prepare, and what's important. So I did want to bring that information to you.
So the units that sold at market rate, does that take them out of the pool? Like, are they still deed restricted? Okay.
Yeah, they remain deed restricted because that's a part of the resale agreement. That's the development project.
How does that work for equity for somebody who buys it on the open market at a market price? When they resell it, how does that equity cap work, or how do they, get their equity out of it, or A, B, or C?
They don't sell at market rate. They still sell at the affordable housing rate. It's just that they don't have to qualify through the program. That's the only difference. So they still sell those properties. So we determine what the resale price shall be based on a projected equity cap.
So there's still the equity cap year over year, so
Correct.
this person who didn't qualify for affordable housing, but kind of
Right, so what
lucked into
happens
it, for
is.
lack of a better word,
what
they're not
happens
really,
is The affordable program dictates income limits. If it doesn't sell within that 60-day window, then they don't have to meet those income restrictions. That's the difference.
that makes sense, thank you.
How many properties did you talk about are now being marketed or will look like they will be available? Was there a
5.
number? 5. Thank you.
I have a question on some of these numbers. So you said 7 properties total sold. Is that this calendar year? Or is that recently?
This calendar year.
This calendar year, okay. Total calendar year, 3 sold on the waiting list and they met the affordability requirements, and 4 sold in the open market, but they retained their deed restriction. Okay. And 5 upcoming.
Yes.
Okay.
So those are our development projects or properties. I want to thank the commissioners for coming to Commission Palooza. It was very interesting. I'm going to give those that attended the chance to kind of say a little bit about the process if you weren't there. But I think mostly everybody was there, with the exception of Sarah. So. Yeah, but it was a very informative process. And I would thank you all for participating.
I was expecting more Palooza.
Last commission, more Palooza.
I missed the cotton candy that was promised to be there.
But I think that's a really good process and really gets a lot of good information out. So.
Yeah, I do think that it, you don't get to commune with your fellow commissioners on other commissions a whole lot. I did have a couple of people who were, on the other side of Parliament that evening who were just a little confused. Just I think about the kind of novel nature of the meeting. You sort of have these people who are up on the dais who you're used to being the empowered people who are going to decide something, and then that wasn't really what was going on. And I sort of understood that the feedback there is going to be. I guess transmitted to council at a subsequent council hearing, right, on that topic, right?
To the planning commission.
Okay, oh yeah. So I feel like it could have been sort of better explained, sort of like the flow of the information, sort of the kind of what goes to who and sort of what's the response. I think also kind of there were even some commissioners that were like, what are we supposed to be doing here exactly? So I think there was a lot of confusion just. About the process and how it was supposed to work, what was supposed to get to where, and so I think, as a person from police accountability, who had never participated in something like that before, I was still little, so I think it's a good process to get all the people together. Oh, also then transportation wasn't there, right?
That's right.
And so there was a question in my mind of sort of how it was determined which commissions were going to be participating. But yeah, all in all, a good process to be able to listen to, and the multiple people with fantastic mustaches, So it was a fun night.
I think it's a positive and good process, and it was the second time that at least I had participated in that, and I think if we do it more, it'll become kind of more clear how it works too. It's kind of new to everyone. So, yeah.
I would have loved to be able to have small kind of breakout groups. I know Brown Act is a funky thing there, and then if we're not actually making decisions there's an attorney that gets paid to figure out what we can or can't do that I'd love to get their opinion on. But yeah, no, it would have been interesting to say, hey, 2 people from this commission, 2 people from that commission, 2 people from that commission. We're going to make as many of those makeups as possible and go talk together amongst yourselves, and then you can kind of come back and have bigger takeaways, because it was a little bit like waiting in class to raise your hand for it's your turn to read from the book or whatnot. So it would have been interesting to have more engaged actual conversation rather than just everyone getting their 30 to 62 minute comment in front of everybody.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with trying not to have our city clerk's head explode. When we're talking about how do we have these discussions, and having it come back as a workshop discussion kind of allows us to have those conversations, and as a workshop, you can do that. But again, it's being very careful about making sure that we're not violating any of the sunshine laws. But it does give you an opportunity to at least see what concerns are from other commissions, and what their approach is, which is seems really informative for everybody.
I'll ask my fellow commissioners, is there any point out of that or question coming out of that that you feel we should take on into our work plan, or anything stuck with you in terms of stuff that we could take up?
So we had a conversation this evening about sort of who determines, and the answer was sort of that it's a staff decision or a staff, analysis, but who determines whether or not it's a substantial change. I had a question, or part of my comment at the Commission Palooza was sort of who determines, in the future, since I guess also we already have exemptions. So like, who would determine if these exemptions are made? Is that a staff analysis sort of thing, or is that a thing that comes to council or comes to some sort of commission? And I think that, right now where they are very just sort of cut and dry, like, is this shaped like this? I think it's very easy to kind of, you don't really need sort of a public facing accountability check. But I feel like because we're talking about some different type of exemptions, I think it would be, good for there to be, whether that's at planning or at council or somewhere that's a little bit more public facing, that people be able to participate in that conversation about whether or not that exemption was met. And so that's something that I don't even know if it's fully the gift of this commission, but
well, that's if and only if we pass amendment, which has to go to the voters.
Several asterisks.
So if it gets passed, then yeah, I assume would be a staff level decision on if something is exempt or not exempt for that. But that's so much hypothesizing.
Yes, at this point, yes.
It's all Councilmember Partida. She makes the final call.
As promised, I thought I'd give you a brief update on what's happening with the Respite Center. The Respite Center remains open, and what we have done is Downtown Streets team has dissolved, but we have made offers to some of the staff that were working for Downtown Streets team to keep the site open and run the site while we conduct an RFP. So the RFP was released on the 10th, and the applications are due back this coming Friday. So we feel as though it will probably take a while before we can get through the review process and select a potentially new operator. Probably sometime around January, but between now and January, we have been very lucky that a couple of members of the Downtown Streets team staff have elected to stay and to continue to operate that site.
How many, have you received multiple responses?
They're due this Friday. They're due this Friday.
So the reason I presented this or wanted to engage in this earlier in the meeting is I heard from two different people, I noticed them talk to each other, that they had went down there and that it was locked earlier today.
So there are a couple of things going on. While we make the transition, Downtown Streets was effectively, their last day was Friday. While we are onboarding the new staff, I can't have them on the site until they are under our purview. So we've closed for a couple of days, but while we're doing that, we're making some minor repairs that we wanted to get done too. So what we've done, and they spent, the staff last week spent a lot of time advising people, okay, this is what's happening, this is when you'll see us back. In the meantime, this is where you can go. And a lot of people have been availing themselves of Paul's Place. So a lot of folks have been doing that. We still have our city-based outreach team that's also going out and talking to people, making sure that they're okay, making sure they know where they can go, another entry point is, while we work this out at the rest of the site. But they do know that we're coming back. They've big thing was is making sure that they understood that this is temporary, and we will be real.
So we just gotta get these folks as city staff. Okay, cool.
Temporary, yes, so.
I'm curious what kind of agreements you signed with the former Down Industries team members, in terms of, I don't know, are they with the city for 3 months or 4 months or?
We are bringing them on as temporary part-time, and they will be temporary part-time until we make the transition to a new operator, or we'll have those discussions once we kind of determine who's going to be on the site. But right now, they're temporary part-time.
Okay.
And so I think I've already made the update about HUD, and we were waiting for them. And then tomorrow, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
I wanted to ask if there was an update about Pacifico.
I can provide a brief update about Pacifico. For those of you that don't know, Pacifico is a property that the city owns. It's a 4-building former dorm complex, and we were partnering with the county to bring CalWorks families to that particular site. Right now, the county has decided to take a pause on that because CalWorks there's some concerns about their ability to move forward with the CalWorks project. But the city is exploring what options we can do with that site. So we're having some talks about what does that look like. We kind of had a feeling that there may be some changes with what the county might be able to do. So we had some ideas in our back pocket. We're working through those right now. And then we will be talking with the council subcommittee on Pacifico to get their ideas.
Thank you.
And go ahead.
Well, what are the changes to CalWorks that is concerning the county?
So a couple of things. Some of the funding that the county was going to use to rehab the building, that funding came from HCD, and HCD they had a different opinion about how those funds could be used for rehabbing, and that funding was on a deadline. So that was one thing. And the other thing is, CalWorks, my understanding is for the next couple of years, the CalWorks funding they believe will be pretty stable, but they're not quite sure what may happen with CalWorks funding after 2028. So they're having some discussions about what that could potentially look like.
That's not financially feasible.
Yeah. So there are a number of, the financial outlook in general right now in social services is ever-changing and pretty bleak.
So most people don't know CalWorks is a federally funded program. So I think that goes without saying that anything that's federally funded, there are going to be challenges for it. So.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Do you know if anyone in Davis is thinking about the AVOD waiver? Like the CalFresh waiver, how people getting CalFresh are gonna have to be able-bodied adults with disabilities. They have to basically work if they're at all able to, and a certain number of hours, or they'll lose their benefits starting early next year.
We don't know what the impact is as of yet, and we haven't been exploring that yet. It's on everyone's radar. In 2026, there are going to be a lot of programs that are going to fall off the cliff. And there's just no other way to say it. Given some of the federal changes that are happening at the federal level, and given that the state receives a lot of their funding through the feds, that has a really big impact on what the county is able to, the services that they're able to provide, which in turn will have a huge impact on our citizens. And we're just, one of the things, I will say this, the Homeless Strategic Plan Implementation Committee has been meeting. We started meeting a couple of months ago, and right now, what we're just trying to do is get a handle on what's happening to whom where, because there are implications for Medi-Cal and CalAIM, there's implications for SNAP, there's implications for housing vouchers, there's implications for, you know, people's ability, like you mentioned, of work requirements. In the homelessness arena, there's implications for people that are in need of substance abuse treatment, or if they have been justice involved. And so it's a bit of there's a lot of attempting to understand what can we prioritize given what we're hearing, and what will we have the resources and capacity to do. So those conversations are happening.
And I work at the Department of Social Services, and been spending pretty much an entire, all my work days for the last month thinking about dependence. Nobody particularly that I heard about from Davis, but at the county level, big discussion. The policy is effective number one. There's a time clock that everybody is subject to, so you can have 3 months where you're out of compliance. That will reset in January, or at the end of December. And so most of the policies won't bite for most people until March. And the CalSAWS, which is our state welfare program, or state platform, benefits platform, those changes will enable ABOD automation in February. So thankfully, we think it'll be in time. So, but yeah, a huge policy change.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for that, Conrad. Conrad? Yes. Just want to say thank you. The other thing is for city with respect to housing, just want you to understand how it's important, but the way we're just supporting affordable housing through deed restrictions. So the impact that we will feel from the city is probably minimal because we're not dependent on the funding, whereas the county depends on certain levels of that funding. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there too.
Thank you. Speaking more to the social services part of our purview than the housing part.
Yes, absolutely. So we will, as we hear things, we will bring them forward. But there's quite a bit of change in this arena right now. Not a lot of clarity, and definitely not a lot of sources of sustainable funding. So something to think about. And finally, to just so you know, tomorrow night, council has asked Iris and I to come forward with an item on affordable housing production. And we're just going to give an overview of housing affordability as it relates to the ordinance Article 18.05. So just to kind of provide a refresher. So you're welcome to watch.
Is there a written report associated with that? Was there?
Yes, there's a staff report. It's in the council agenda.
Consent agenda, okay, cool.
And those are my updates. There we go.
All right, I guess that is it. Is there public comment? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thinking about another year, but I remember the public comment. I'm just getting,
You can be chair up to 2 years. I have